Dynasty Warriors 9 Empires continues the Empires series, offering players a more strategic, slower-paced style of game. The Empire series is long-standing, although 9 sees a number of key changes. Right off the bat, I'm going to say this is my favourite Dynasty Warriors game ever, but that the Nintendo Switch is a terrible place to play it as it stands. I think I've already answered the pun, but is it a shoe thing, or is it no way? Well, let's find out. Narratively speaking, you're offered more of the same Romance of the Three Kingdoms storytelling. You can take part in a number of different time periods, each with their own key and pivotal events, and you can play as one of the 94 Musu officers, or one of the more lowly 700 common officers, or your own creation, such as Glen here, who's not based on anyone in particular, but is about 9 foot tall and has slightly less meat on him than a butcher's pencil. Still, he's bloody good with a sword. Your choice of starting character will also affect who you're affiliated with. Most of my gameplay was with the wife of a famous general, and as such she started out within their camp at a reasonable rank, which changed my influence over those around me. Starting as Glen, he had barely a pot to in, was all on his own, stood in an empty house, and this changed the types of decisions that you could make strategically, with the most important one probably being who I was going to serve. Empire's gameplay is quite different to your traditional Dynasty Warriors. Each month you can make different decisions, and when you're serving under a lord, plans will be proposed for that coming month, which you can agree with, or you might want to interject and add your own suggestions, which might go down well or leave you looking a bit of a fool. Regardless, you'll have specific tasks to undertake. It might be spying on a neighbouring faction or convincing another general to come and join your clan. It could be reinforcing your army or your defences, such as the domestic affairs, human affairs, diplomacy, military affairs, battle, which at lower ranks allows you to join in with areas that are being invaded or attacks taken place at the behest of the leaders. But as you rank up, you can then choose your own targets. You'll also see the go for a stroll function. Much of your time will be spent schmoozing other officers to improve your relationship, with a specified amount of points shown up in the corner. Sweet talking an enemy general and then asking them to come and join you can result in improved forces on your part, and every action you undertake in this phase will improve your overall level, which is shown in the corner, as well as your title. Titles are interesting, as they can not only be gained through leveling up, they might be bestowed upon you or earned through other relationships. They can offer you unique secret plans. I'll talk more about those in a minute. It's important to manage your army's resources. They affect everything from the ability to repair your current army to the happiness of the people, and in turn your overall power. The world map shows the entire empire, split into several different factions, with each region showing its current occupational force, as well as the number of your generals present. Combat is drastically different to the previous iterations, with a large focus on siege warfare. Whether attacking or defending, this is where the aforementioned titles come in. Depending on yours or the other generals' titles within your ranks, they afford you access to certain secret plans. These could be attempting a nighttime raid, or having a magical unit rain fire upon the battle, or even summoning a giant bear that unfortunately I was on the receiving end of and decimated my entire army. The plans aren't automatic though. When you begin a round, you'll have to carry out certain criteria before they come into effect. It's a really nice idea, as you'll often want to work towards those, but also be split by the hectic mayhem that's going on screen. And for me, the combination of strategy alongside those Musu elements really improves the experience. Pre-battle or through pausing at any time, you can allocate each of the different generals to certain tasks, as long as you're a higher rank of course, and if you catch them during a fight, you can press one of the D-pad directions to give them a specific and instant instruction. If you ask them to follow you, this could create a synergy effect, improving your bond with them and the damage that you do to those around you. Moving around the battlefield feels very familiar. You can summon your horse with a whistle, and you'll be using a combination of ranged and melee attacks. Your Musu gauge will be building up, allowing you to do specials when full, and you can hold the R and L bumpers in combination with the A, B, X and Y to do certain melee moves and special abilities, and through holding the L bumper you have access to your pre-chosen secret plans. I thought it was a bit strange that they had the same name as the overarching secret plans that take place during combat, as these ones are essentially special abilities that you can apply. They charge up through combat, and then when usable, they're highlighted and you can select them with one of the D-pad directions. Some may be offensive, others defensive, and this is shown with a small symbol. There's a nice strategy behind these as well, as they level up between rounds. and you'll find certain synergies with different weapons. On the subject of weapons, although your character has an affinity with a certain type, you can select any of them. There are literally hundreds to choose from, and once again, they also level up and you'll find better ones. And then you can apply gems to them, improving their potency in certain ways. The siege combat is actually very fun. In traditional Dynasty Warriors, I was always running towards the strongest general, killing them and ending the fight. Here though, directing your units to take on catapults or siege equipment, trying to protect them as they approach the gates, or suddenly having to change strategy when the enemy have used one of their secret plans, made for a much more exciting experience. It's not all perfect, it still sometimes feels a bit by the numbers, whereby your siege equipment will break down the walls, you'll run into the center square, go absolutely ham on the enemy in a segment known as the decisive battle, and generally come out victorious. It was at its most interesting where the odds were against your player. You're shown the balance of power before you go into any battle, but you'll be much more reliant on some strategy when the chips are down. Win or lose, there are consequences. Winning allows you to capture, kill, or release the enemy generals. If you're an underling, then you don't have the choice of what to do, you just simply see what plays out. But if you're in charge, well, you can be as ruthless or as merciful as you choose. If you're on the receiving end though and you lose, it can be quite brutal to have the generals who you've built up a good relationship with through those strolls executed and permanently removed from the game. The final element of the game is the overworld area. It's divided into your hideaway, which is essentially your home, that can be decorated with a variety of furniture that you acquire, and it can be placed around the house. Completely pointless, but a nice addition if you're into that kind of thing. The entire region can be freely roamed, although it's incredibly bland, and as we'll go into in the next sections, an oil painting on Switch this game is not. Unfortunately, on the Switch, this free roaming mode actually is a negative, as it really highlights just how poor the game looks, and it's devoid of any real life. Finally then, we've got the post-game content. Now, if you ever get there, because there are literally hundreds of hours of campaign to work through, there are a few nice touches. For example, you can get married. This marriage may, after the game ends, bear a child. That child will have skills and abilities that otherwise wouldn't be possible from start, and you can literally carry on your dynasty. I said right at the start, this is my favourite Dynasty Warriors game ever, but performance affects gameplay and controls. I give gameplay 16 out of 20, and the controls are so affected by the frame rate, but also the camera itself. You'll end up facing in the wrong direction, not feeling like you can lock on to the enemies you want to, and just flailing like a headless chicken. Controls score 10 out of 20. Well, onto visuals, performance and audio. Visually, the game looks terrible. It's borderline embarrassing how bad it looks in handheld. There was a moment there where I felt like I'd stepped back into Ark Survival Evolved, as a tree disappeared and materialized in front of me, and the generals thereabouts would have looked embarrassed had their faces not been a single waxy texture. Performance is at its best in combat, but that's not saying a lot. 30 frames per second is a rarity, with it fluctuating from 20, 25, and everywhere in between. This is on patch 1.01, which is also the launch day patch, as I wanted to make sure that I was getting the same experience as you, and it's a mess. There are a number of visual glitches. Not only does the scenery pop in, characters materialize, players materialize, and while the best experience is in docked mode, as you can see from the handheld footage, it's even worse. It's a miracle really that the game is still as enjoyable as it is, but these issues need to be fixed, and do make sure that you keep an eye on the top pinned comment, because as I inevitably will revisit this game for an all patched up video, I'll make sure to update that section. The audio is the complete opposite. Nine Empires has one of the greatest soundtracks that I've heard in the series, ranging from the heart pounding during combat to some wonderful orchestrated melodies when in the menus. There is a photo mode, but I'm thinking these images might be slightly offensive to the eye. Text size in both docked and handheld is not a problem. Visuals and performance are currently at an unacceptable level. They score 2 out of 20. Audio scores 18 out of 20. Dynasty Warriors 9 Empires retails at a full £54.99 on the Nintendo eShop. If you're buying physically, then you can expect much lower prices. But when it comes to value, we look at all aspects. We look at game length, the amount of content, but also the thought that if I walk down the shops, picked this up with my hard-earned money, came home and saw this gameplay experience, how would I feel? And quite frankly, it takes a massive hit on value because of the issues with performance. It looks like a dog's dinner, and it doesn't run much better. There's so much here gameplay-wise that I can only recommend you buy it on another platform. There's hundreds of hours of gameplay, character customization, but this is just not the place to do it. I give value 5 out of 20. So there we have it. Very unusual to have a game you thoroughly enjoyed have its score so devastatingly flattened by its performance. It scores an overall SwitchUp score in its current state of 51%. As I say, do keep an eye out on that top pin comment. This isn't a bad game. In fact, quite the opposite. It would just be remiss of me not to mention just how shockingly it performs on Switch. Thanks for watching. I hope this didn't come across as negative because it's not intended to be. And do let me know what you're thinking of this one down in the comments. For all things Switch, all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers, guys. See ya!